Hi, I'm Liz Larson with The Art of Frosting. Today I'm going to take you with me as I make a box roll for the first time. For the box roll cake, I'm actually using a 12-inch square pan that I have cut into 4 6-inch squares. So the body of my cake is going to be 6-inch square. A couple of fine skewers, some fine bendy straws, and candy melts. I'm going to use a 1/4 sheet platter for this so I can put my box roll at one end and his feet can stick out at this end. I'm using a mega muffin or a 3-inch cake for his head, and I've got a couple of cupcake size cakes that I'm going to use for feet. We're going to start with a trick that we've used before, and we're going to dip them in our candy melt. A little bit of green, and I mixed in just the tiniest bit of gray. And I'm going to cover my little straw, and these are going to serve as those little arms that can stick out. Next, we want to gather up our candy melt, and we're going to stick it in, put it in one of our little parchment bags here. And we're going to make the ears. I want to cut off just the tip here, maybe 1.5 inches. You want to start with the outline here. And then I want to take my small spatula and spread that out. And then I want to stick my little skewer in the top edge here and take my candy melt and go over them. So I'm going to have the top part of the ear is going to be thicker. We want to quickly fill and trim our cakes. Now these are fairly thick layers, and so I'm going to end up using only 3 of my squares to get the height that I want. I'm going to use our quick icer, as we almost always do. I'm using a very light tan. In fact, on camera it might show as white, but it's actually just a very light tan that I've used brown. And then I've mixed a little bit of my own color. What I want to do with that is I want to make sure I have the dark side on the out, and I want to actually come up the side of my box. And you can see I've got a dark line there. Now I just want to use my drywall tool or my bench knife here and just start to blend inward from the sides, and just go around as much as you want to get it the shape, color, and dimension that you want. And let's move on. We want to dowel this cake so that if it is delivered, it does not slide from side to side. A little bit of coconut. Now you don't need to use coconut if you don't like it or don't want to. You just need to use something that prevents the bottom cake from sticking. You need a board. We're going to place our cake. This is a 3-inch round, and center it. Now remember, this is going to be the front of our cake. Then we want to take another skewer and secure. So I'm just using some leaf green here, some Wilton leaf green, and I'm mixing it in. And I'm not going to mix totally because we want some of that color variation. Now we want to gray this slightly, and I've made a little bit of pink because we're going to need a little pink for his mouth. How you gray something is you actually use the color's contrast. The contrast to green is red. I don't want it to be quite that gray, so I'm just going to add the pink in. I'm using just the open end of a coupler for my figure piping tool in this case. And what I want to do is I want to just go ahead and cover his head and the back of his head so that we can do a quick crumb ice on this. I want to get in here to start to create definition and shape, rounding just a little bit. Not too much though, because we want the top of his head to be flat. As we come around the front, we'll go ahead and crumb ice just lightly. So many different expressions you can make. So I want him smiling, and I'm just going to mark here where I want the edge of his smile to come. His smile's really, really wide. And I'm going to go ahead and just rough that in now using my coupler as a figure piping tip. So all the way up like that. Top of his mouth is kind of, this is like a lemon shape. His nose is going to be there. And the edge of his smile will be here. Brow line is going to come up and around like so. I know that this comes out a little heavier, so we'll add that now and extend his smile. You see that I'm building on top of what I've already figure piped on. And inset is his little lip here. All we want to do here is just really lightly smooth our edges. I can see that I want his smile to come way up here, so I can go ahead and cut that in with my palette knife. And I'm coming back in with a number 12 figure piping tip so that I have a little bit more control. I'm actually going to be filling out this part of his face a little bit more. I need to get in now and open up his eyes a little bit more. I want to keep this ridge that I've created here and pull it, just blend it back into his head. Then I'm just going to use the edge here and hollow it out. Bag here inside my brown coloring, or the red and green that you added. And this is really touchy, you got to be really careful with this. But I want to add just a touch of depth of color. And so I'm going to use this to paint ever so delicately, just underneath his smile line here, just to add a little bit of color. I'm going to do the same thing here, just inside his eyes, just delicately. I'm using my spatula painting technique before I do any more detail on the face, just to create a little collar, a little sense that there's a hole down here that he's coming in and out of. I'm going to use that dark brown again and stripe the inside of a parchment here so that I can get some deep color down in his mouth. I'm going to refill that bag with some of the original green color of his skin and then mix right in there. We're going to use this for his mouth. I don't want to use black for this because the contrast would be too much. So we're just going to come in and create some depth. I'm going to come back in with my spatula and just lightly smooth that. Got his dark of his mouth, the color that I want, and I'm going to come in with some pink and do his nose. So I'm going to a little bit of a heart-shaped nose. And give him his lip. I'm going to come back in with the tip of a skewer this time and just highlight that lip a little bit, give that a little bit more color. While I'm here, I'm going to come in and make his little nostrils. So we want to come in and add a few teeth. And I'm just using a number 12 writer. And his teeth are really sort of randomly spaced in here. So I want to work on his eyes now. And his eyes are yellow, but I want to come in and add a little bit of that darker brownish green. His eyes are yellow and they're kind of egg-shaped. So I just used my bag that I had my number 12 figure piping tip in, and I just added some yellow to it. And we're going to come in and use a light rotating motion. Give him a dark green iris, and then I'm going to come back in and give him a nice big pupil. So we have our candy melt ear, and it's not quite the right color that I want. I noticed that as I look at my picture, I see that he has a little bit of pink inside his ear, so I'm going to just wipe a little bit of pink into my candy melt. And I'm also going to take just a little bit of this darker green color and I'm just going to wipe it on and place his ear down low where I want it, right down in. And I want to just lightly sketch in the label, and I've got my skewer dipped in a little bit of that brown green, dark brown green. The front of his box has just a little bit of pink, so we're just going to paint that little bit of pink in. Then we're going to come in and delicately make the shoe. We'll come back in and just very delicately smooth again, and just highlight just a little bit. There's just the tiniest bit of white flourish that we're just going to use the end of our bag for and use our S shape. We need to come back in with our brown and create an armhole here as well. And then you want to place your arms in there. We need to get to our feet and our hands, and the hands and feet are really pretty big. So I'm going to use this cupcake size. It's actually a 2-inch cake. I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to use these leftover straws that I have and stick it up in about like that, so it'll support my feet and I can put them at the angle that I want. For my legs, hands, and feet, I've actually combined all of my colors. My darker green, my lighter green, and my pink. I'm actually going to come back over his legs just to make them a little thicker here. And then I'm going to start piping the feet. You can see that my pink is starting to come out. They have a lot of pink in their hands and feet. And I want to start roughing in his hands. So here is the back of this hand and the back of this hand. And he needs 4 big fingers and a thumb, so we know the thumb needs to come in. Give him a nice fat thumb. Covered the rest of the feet with icing, and I'm using just the same technique as I did with the head, just coming in and sculpting and shaping. So I finished sculpting his feet and smoothing, and I'm just going to come in and redo the toes. And leave it at that. So I'm coming in now and I'm just smoothing out my hands here a little bit. And you can see on this hand I've smoothed it and given it a little bit of definition. Decided that his arms were too skinny, so I'm just going to figure pipe right over them. We are very, very close to being finished. We just need to add a couple more accents here. One is that they have a lot of these rags wrapped around their wrists. Well, we did it. And I'm really happy with the way he turned out, especially for a first try. I think he's really cute, really graphic, and I think any little kid would definitely recognize him as a box troll, and especially know that he's shoes. Always, you can find me at The Art of Frosting on Facebook and at www.theartoffrosting.blogspot.com. You can email me at cakedecoratinginstructor@gmail.com with those really serious cake decorating questions. Please, if you guys try this, send me your pictures. We share them with our community on Facebook and at the blog, and I love to see them and love to see what you're up to. Thanks again. We'll see you all again really soon. Bye.